Hello and welcome to The Remote Revolution, a podcast by Virtual Mojo. This is where we explore how modern businesses are transforming the way they work through remote teams, virtual support, and smarter operational strategies. In each episode, we bring you insights, conversations, and practical ideas to help entrepreneurs, leaders, and growing companies build efficient, scalable, and future-ready organizations. If you're looking to work smarter, scale faster, and unlock the power of remote talent, you're in the right place. Let's begin.
Welcome to the Remote Revolution podcast. This is episode 1, and for our very first deep dive, I'm your host, Anik, and I am joined by industry expert Umaima.
Hi, everyone. So glad to be here for this.
So picture this. It is 2 in the morning. Your company's website just completely crashed.
Oh, no.
Right. You are losing sales by the minute, and the absolute only person who knows the back-end server password is like a brilliant but totally elusive freelancer who is currently asleep on a 14-hour flight to Tokyo.
That is literally the ultimate nightmare scenario.
That really is.
Yeah.
So if that scenario makes your stomach drop, you are in exactly the right place today. Our mission for this deep dive is unpacking this framework known as the workflow-based remote staffing model.
Yes, which is so needed.
Exactly. We really want to figure out why the traditional ways we hire people are completely broken, and more importantly, how flipping the script on how we organize work can, permanently eliminate that 2 a.m. panic.
It's so common, though. And to set the stage for how we actually solve it, we really have to shift our entire perspective. Well, the moment you hear a phrase like remote staffing, the brain immediately jumps to that exhausted debate about geography.
Oh, right. The whole office versus kitchen table thing.
Exactly. We start arguing about where people should sit, but the framework we are exploring today completely bypasses that argument.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we are not talking about where people work. We are completely rethinking how the work itself is structured and doing that before a person is even hired.
Getting away from the geography debate is so refreshing. Because, let's be honest about what actually happens when a business realizes they have a massive gap and they need work done yesterday.
Panic. Just pure panic.
Total panic. The location isn't the primary issue. We just seem culturally programmed to immediately fall back on 2 extreme default options.
Right.
You either scramble to hire a freelancer, or you start the grueling process of building out an entire in-house team.
And both of those traditional options carry massive, unavoidable trade-offs. If we look at the freelancer route first, the appeal is super obvious.
Yeah, flexibility.
Exactly. Ultimate flexibility. You have a sudden project, you find a specialist to execute it, you pay them, and you both just move on. It feels very efficient.
It feels like plug and play,
Yeah.
You have you plug it with a freelancer.
Right. But the reality is rarely that smooth.
Far from it.
Because the fundamental trade-off with freelancers is a severe lack of consistency. You have to remember that they're essentially running their own businesses.
Which means they have their own priorities.
Right. They are juggling multiple clients, managing their own unique schedules, and using their own distinct methodologies.
Right. So you might get brilliant work on Tuesday, but next month, that same freelancer might deliver something formatted entirely differently.
Or they might just be unavailable entirely. You simply cannot guarantee the exact same output produced the exact same way every single time.
Okay, so if the inconsistency of freelancers drives you crazy, you naturally pivot to the other extreme, right? The in-house team.
Precisely. And the in-house model gives the business owner this ultimate feeling of control.
You own their time.
Basically, yeah. You dictate the hours, you dictate the tools, and you have a dedicated resource. But that absolute control comes with a staggering price tag.
Oh, it's huge.
We are talking about high operational costs, benefits, payroll taxes, and a really slow setup time.
The recruiting alone.
Exactly. The recruiting, interviewing, onboarding, training. It can literally take months before an in-house hire is actually producing any real return on investment.
I want to use an analogy here because I think it perfectly captures the structural trap businesses get stuck in.
Oh, I love a good analogy. Let's hear it.
Okay, so relying on freelancers is essentially like calling a local handyman every single time a pipe leaks in your house.
Okay. Yep.
It's super flexible. You don't have to pay them when the pipes are working.
Yeah.
But it is wildly unpredictable.
Very true.
You don't know exactly when they'll show up. You don't know what random parts they're bringing in their truck.
Yeah.
And you definitely don't know if they're going to fix the sink the exact same way the last guy did.
That is exactly the friction of the freelance model. Like, it solves the immediate problem, but it introduces all this long-term instability.
Right. But then the other extreme, the in-house hiring, is like deciding you are so absolutely sick and tired of dealing with unpredictable handymen that you are going to build a full-scale plumbing department in your basement.
Wow. Just for a leaky sink.
Exactly. You hire a master plumber, you buy the branded trucks, you set up an HR department just for the plumbers, you have total control over them.
But it's outrageously expensive.
And completely overkill if all you really needed was to fix a dripping faucet.
When you frame it that way, you see exactly why businesses struggle so deeply to scale. I mean, if your only two options to get work done are the inconsistent handyman or the bloated, expensive plumbing department, frictionless growth is just impossible.
You're just stuck.
You really are. You're either sacrificing quality control for speed, or you are sacrificing agility for control.
And neither option supports sustainable operation.
No, not at all. Which is exactly why a third, fundamentally different option is necessary.
So, if everyone inherently knows these two old ways are painful, it brings up a vital question. Businesses try to split the difference by building remote teams, but why do so many of those remote setups fail spectacularly? Like, why is it usually such a disaster?
The root cause of that failure almost always comes down to one critical mistake, and that is prioritizing speed over structure.
Speed over structure.
Yes. When a business feels the pain of being understaffed, the instinct is just to relieve that pain as fast as humanly possible.
Right.
So they focus intensely on hiring fast rather than building structure.
It's the classic panic hire. You are drowning in customer support tickets, so you just yell, "Get me someone who knows how to answer emails and get them here tomorrow."
Exactly that. They bring a person in, sit them down, virtually or physically, and immediately expect results.
With no guidance.
Right. They do this without ever actually defining the process first. They skip the entire foundational blueprint of the work.
And what's fascinating is how predictably this backfires. There is this inevitable chain reaction of chaos that follows a panic hire. It's like a domino effect.
Oh, 100%.
Imagine it from the perspective of the new employee.
Yeah.
Day one, they open their laptop, eager to work, and nothing.
Just crickets.
Yeah. There is no defined process. So the very first domino to fall is widespread confusion. The new hire has no idea how the company prefers things done, and management has absolutely no idea what the new hire is actually doing all day.
Which naturally tips over the next domino, which is a total lack of clear expectations.
Right.
If the underlying process for handling a customer support ticket, to use your example, isn't documented step by step, it is literally impossible to articulate what a successful outcome looks like.
Because the standard only exists in the manager's head.
Exactly. You cannot hold someone accountable to a standard they can't see. You can't hit a target that hasn't been painted.
And because you have no clear expectations, you end up with the third falling domino, which is zero tracking. You cannot measure, track, or optimize a workflow that does not exist on paper. If a manager asks, "Hey, where are we on that project?" the only possible answer is a super vague, "I'm working on it."
Exactly. And the final fatal result of all that upfront confusion, the lack of expectations, and the zero tracking is massive systemic inconsistency.
The worst kind.
The work being produced is constantly varying in quality, missing deadlines, and causing friction across the entire company.
It just becomes a total operational mess. But here's the real tragedy of this cycle. A business owner will live through this nightmare, right? They will experience the chaos, look at the terrible results, and arrive at a completely false conclusion.
This is where the diagnostic wires get fundamentally crossed. They look at the failure and incorrectly conclude, well, remote teams just don't work.
Or nobody wants to work hard anymore.
Exactly. They blame the people they hired, or they blame the geographic location of the workers. They blame literally everything except the actual culprit, which is their own broken system.
They blame the handyman for doing a bad job instead of realizing they never actually gave him a blueprint.
Spot on.
So, we have diagnosed the illness. We understand why the old ways fail. Let's talk about the cure. This brings us to the core of our deep dive today, the workflow-based remote staffing model.
Yes. This is where we shift from identifying the pain to exploring the actual fix. And the core philosophy of this model is really straightforward, but it requires a massive mental shift.
Okay, what is it?
The rule is, Process before people.
Process before people. I love the sound of that, but what does it actually mean in the trenches? Like if I'm running a business, what am I practically doing differently?
It means that before you ever post a job description, before you interview a single candidate, you take the time to define and document the workflow.
Okay.
The workflow comes before the person. Every single recurring task in your business needs to follow a documented step-by-step system.
Got it.
The goal is to design a process so clear that the output remains entirely consistent, regardless of who is actually sitting in the chair executing the steps.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here because the moment you say documented step-by-step system, I can hear people tensing up.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Doesn't this stifle creativity?
Yeah.
Like if every single task follows a strict, predefined checklist, aren't we just turning talented employees into mindless robots? Where is the room for human ingenuity if the workflow dictates every single click of the mouse?
That is easily the most common objection, but when you look at the psychology of how humans actually work, this model does the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't stifle creativity at all. It actively protects it by freeing up cognitive load.
Okay, walk me through that. How does a checklist protect creativity?
Think about the mental energy you expend on a typical workday. If you don't have a system, your team wastes a massive amount of their brain power trying to figure out the basic mundane logistics of a task.
Like tracking down files.
Exactly. They spend 45 minutes wondering where a specific logo file is saved, or trying to remember who needs to approve a draft, or guessing what format a weekly report should be in.
That sounds exhausting.
It is a huge cognitive drain. By ensuring the baseline logistics are handled by a system, you remove all that repetitive, robotic decision-making.
So the system handles the how, which frees up the human to focus on the what and the why.
Exactly. You are not turning people into robots. You are taking the robotic work off their plates.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if a graphic designer doesn't have to spend 2 hours hunting down brand hex codes because the workflow clearly provides them on step 1, they can spend those 2 hours actually designing something brilliant.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Let's expand on our earlier analogy because I think it helps visualize this shift. So if freelancers are the unpredictable handymen and in-house teams are the expensive basement plumbing department, then the workflow-based model is kind of like buying a highly successful franchise.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Think about a global fast food chain. They do not hire master chefs to run the grill. They don't need to.
Yeah.
They have built an incredibly detailed, optimized system.
Right.
They just need someone who can follow the exact documented recipe for the burger. And because the system is flawless, the burger tastes exactly the same whether you buy it in New York or Tokyo.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. The value is in the system, not just the individual operator. And to really understand how this applies to a standard business, it helps to compare the underlying structures head to head.
How so?
Well, freelancers operate on a task-based model. You hand them a discrete objective, like write this article or design this logo, and the relationship is purely transactional.
Right. And then in-house teams operate on a role-based model. You hire a director of marketing, you hand them that broad, vague domain, and you just sort of hope they figure out what to do with it every day.
Exactly. But this new model is strictly process-based. You aren't assigning isolated tasks, and you aren't just filling a broad role with a warm body. You are actively running a system.
Right.
And to run a process-based system effectively, there are 3 non-negotiable pillars you really have to build.
Please hear them.
The very first pillar is clarity.
Meaning everyone involved knows exactly what needs to be done.
More importantly, they know exactly how to do it. Let's talk about what documentation actually looks like in practice.
It's not a giant binder, right?
Definitely not. It doesn't have to be a dusty 300-page corporate manual. Clarity today often looks like a 3-minute screen recording where you talk through a task while you do it.
Oh, that's easy?
Or it looks like a simple digital checklist. The point is, there is zero guessing. The process provides absolute, undeniable clarity from the moment a project triggers to the moment it is completed.
Which feeds perfectly into the second pillar, consistency.
Exactly.
Because that upfront clarity is locked in, the actual work produced no longer depends on the individual employee's mood that day. It doesn't depend on their specific quirks or, how much sleep they got the night before.
Yes.
The work follows the defined process reliably, producing the exact same quality every single time.
And once you have clarity and consistency, you unlock the third pillar, which is visibility. Because the process is defined into clear stages, management can see exactly what is happening at any given moment.
Okay, wait, I have to push back hard on this one. Because total visibility sounds suspiciously like a fancy corporate buzzword for micromanagement.
I totally get why you'd say that.
If my boss has total visibility into every single thing I do all day, I am going to feel suffocated. People hate feeling like Big Brother is watching their screen.
That is a crucial distinction we need to make. Visibility in a workflow-based model is completely different from micromanagement.
Oh.
Micromanagement is tracking the worker. It's looking at how many keystrokes they made or asking why they were away from their keyboard for 10 minutes. That is toxic.
Right, nobody wants that.
Visibility in this model is about tracking the work.
Tracking the work, not the worker. Okay, explain the difference.
When you have a defined workflow, a project moves through clear stages. Stage 1 is drafting, Stage 2 is editing, Stage 3 is final review.
Okay.
Because the system is visible, a manager can open a dashboard and see, the project is currently in Stage 2. They don't need to slack the employee and say, what are you doing right now?
Oh, I see.
They don't need to breathe down anyone's neck. They are managing the system's progress, not the individual's time.
I want you, the listener, to just imagine the profound peace of mind that comes with that. Imagine running a team where you never have to send another just checking in email again.
It's a game changer.
It really is. You know exactly where things stand and you know exactly what the next step is simply by looking at the workflow. You essentially transition from being a babysitter to being a system engineer.
Which completely transforms the day-to-day reality of running the business. Let's talk about the operational upgrades you see when you actually implement this. The most immediate, highly measurable benefits revolve around speed and accuracy.
Okay, what does that look like in a real, practical scenario?
Take something like editing a promotional video. In the old, unstructured way, an editor finishes a draft and sends it over. Then begins a 3-day nightmare of back-and-forth communication.
Oh, I know this pain.
Right. The manager replies, "Can we change the font?" The editor asks, "To what font?" The manager says, "The brand font." The editor asks, "Where is the file for the brand font?"
It is just a draining, endless loop of clarification.
It's agonizing, and it burns so much time.
Exactly.
But with a workflow-based model, tasks move at lightning speed. Before the editor ever starts, the workflow dictates a pre-flight checklist. The brand fonts, the hex codes, the exact dimensions required.
They all linked right there in step 1.
Exactly. Because there is zero confusion, you completely eliminate those massive email threads. A review process that used to take 3 days of scattered communication now happens in 30 minutes.
And beyond just speed, you get a massive upgrade in accuracy. Because every step is predefined, the safety nets and the quality checks are built directly into the workflow itself.
Yes, exactly.
You aren't relying on a human being to simply remember to check for typos. The workflow forces a typo check before the task can even be marked complete.
Speed and accuracy are fantastic operational wins. They make the daily grind so much smoother. But the ultimate goal, the real reason businesses absolutely must adopt this framework, comes down to scaling.
The Holy Grail. Growing without breaking.
Precisely. In the traditional model, scaling is terrifying. Every time you add a new person, you add chaos.
Because you're just throwing bodies at the problem.
Right. But with a workflow-based model, scaling becomes remarkably easy. It almost becomes boring.
Boring is good.
Boring is great for operations. Because the system is already built, documented, and functioning independently of any one person, you can simply add more people to the mix without breaking the machine.
Makes sense.
You aren't hoping a new hire is a genius who can invent a new way to work. You are just plugging a capable person into an existing, well-oiled machine that already knows exactly how to produce results.
Now, I can hear a very specific objection forming in the minds of some listeners right now.
Let's hear it.
They are thinking, okay, this sounds amazing, but I am already drowning in work. I am working 60-hour weeks just to keep the lights on. I barely have time to eat lunch, let alone sit down and write a comprehensive step-by-step manual for everything I do.
That is a very real, very valid constraint. The thought of pausing your business to document everything is paralyzing.
Right.
But the secret is you don't pause. You document as you go.
How did that work?
Well, the next time you sit down to do a repetitive task, let's say you are generating a weekly financial report.
Yeah.
You simply hit record on a screen capture tool. You narrate what you are doing out loud as you do it. First, I open this spreadsheet, then I export this data from this software, then I format these columns.
Oh, wow.
It takes zero extra time because you're going to do the task anyway. But when you finish, you now have a training asset.
That's brilliant.
You hand that video to your newest hire and say, hey, turn this video into a 5-step checklist. Boom. You've just built your first workflow without stopping your business.
That is incredibly practical.
Yeah.
You essentially crowdsource the documentation to the team as part of their onboarding.
Exactly.
So who is the ideal candidate to start making this shift today? Who absolutely needs to implement this right now?
First and foremost, growing businesses. If you have hit a revenue plateau because you physically cannot work any more hours in the day, you need a system that scales with you, not a system that relies entirely on your personal energy.
Makes total sense.
Second, it is custom built for teams handling repetitive operational work. Marketing, customer support, bookkeeping, logistics, anything where the core of the operation involves a series of steps that need to be repeated consistently.
And finally, it is for any business leader who is completely desperate for predictable outputs.
Yeah.
If you are tired of managing effort and you want to start managing results,
Yes.
you don't just want a team that is sweating and working hard. You want a system that reliably produces the exact right outcome on time every single time.
When you step back and look at the entirety of this framework, the overarching lesson is undeniably clear, and it challenges everything we are taught about business growth.
Let's bring it all together for the listener then.
Yeah.
The ultimate takeaway of this deep dive is this. Remote success, or honestly any business success today, is absolutely not about hiring more people.
No, it's not.
Throwing warm bodies at a chaotic problem just creates more expensive chaos.
Success is entirely about building better systems. That is the fundamental truth we have uncovered today. When workflows are meticulously clear, teams simply perform better.
Yeah.
The friction disappears, the cognitive load vanishes, and scaling your business transitions from a chaotic nightmare into a predictable management process.
It is a complete paradigm shift in how we approach our daily operations. Process before people.
Absolutely.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to really mull over. I want you to mentally stress test your current setup.
Oh, this is a good exercise.
Think about your own daily work or the business you currently run. If your operations were a literal machine, which critical parts are currently depending entirely on one specific person's memory rather than a documented process?
That is the ultimate question, the bus factor.
Exactly, the bus factor. If your top performer, or if you yourself won the lottery tomorrow and walked away, would your operational system survive?
Probably not for most people.
Could someone else step in and follow the recipe? Or would your entire business grind to a halt and force you to start completely from scratch?
If the answer is that the business would halt, it is definitely time to start building your workflows.
It really is. So before you rush out in a panic to make your next hire, take a deep breath, take a step back, hit record on your screen, and prioritize the structure. Build the workflow first. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
Keep questioning the systems you rely on. We will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to The Remote Revolution. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and share it with other professionals who are building the future of work. To learn more about how Virtual Mojo helps businesses grow with highly trained virtual assistants and remote support teams, visit www.virtualmojo.com. For inquiries or collaborations, reach out to us at contact@virtualmojo.com. Until next time, keep building smarter systems and embracing the future of work.